Jujutsu Kaisen protagonist Itadori Yuji is the vessel for Ryomen Sukuna. Well, he was, but now he's not. Now the vessel of Sukuna is Megumi Fushiguro. The king of curses reigned supreme in the Heian era. 1,000 years ago saw a golden age of jujutsu, in which sorcerers were at their apex. This era is when Sukuna and the equally villainous Kenjaku thrived, and both seek to bring this period back to life so they can once again terrorize humanity. However, curses weren't the only ones more potent in the Heian period. It is repeatedly stated in JJK that modern sorcerers are far weaker than they once were. Kenjaku and Sukuna even seem bored by their efforts, never really getting to unleash their true capabilities because their opponents are too weak. While there are some notable jujutsu shamans in modern society, brawls between reincarnated ancient sorcerers and the ones of modern times in the culling games demonstrate how big the skill gap truly is. The world of Jujutsu Kaisen has seen the rise and fall of several powerful sorcerers over the years, while the modern era is what the fans know most about. The series has also delved into previous eras, largely thanks to the culling game. There are several powerful ancient sorcerers who have taken part in the culling game, and fans have been thoroughly impressed by the level of skills that they possess. While nearly all of them are powerful in their own way, there are only a handful that can be considered to be elite sorcerers. Before we begin, please flirt with the like button and press the subscribe button. Now let's begin. 8. Dhruv Lekdawala. Little is known about Dhruv's personality other than he willing engaged in the viciousness of the culling game. He attacked sorcerers and civilians alike, and did so indiscriminately, making him a target for Yuta Okatsu. Dhruv is an undoubtedly powerful sorcerer who was able to preserve his life across generations through 2 different incarnations after his original life. His most notable feat is single-handedly conquering Japan in the Civil War of Wa. In the modern era, the Shikigami user was able to score over 90 points in the culling game. However, he was no match for the unusual abilities of Yuta Okatsu, which are second only to Satoru Gojo. 7. Yori Hazenoki. Hazenoki is an elite-level sorcerer from the past with fundamental knowledge of jujutsu and enough combat prowess to apply it in a fight. He's highly tolerant to pain, willing to frequently gouge out his own eyes and teeth to provide ammunition for his curse technique. Reggie considers Hazenoki to be exceptionally dangerous, and believes he will kill anyone who makes him angry enough to go all out. As a sorcerer from a different, more violent time period, Hazenoki is a vicious, temper-prone individual who willingly engages in the brutality of the culling game. He has a tendency to indulge in torturing his opponents but will go all out if he feels he's being mocked. Hazenoki's violent tendencies contrast heavily with the extremely goofy Fumihiko Takaba. Takaba constantly irritated Hazenoki even while fighting to the death. He is also capable of using reverse curse technique, which is a very complicated skill that not many users in the world of JJK can utilize. He was definitely not the strongest, however, still very skilled as an ancient sorcerer. 6. Reggie Star. One of the bigger antagonists of the culling game, Reggie Star was also an ancient sorcerer who was powerful enough to lead his own group. Just his aura was enough for the fans to conclude that he had tremendous strength up his sleeve. In his fight against Fushiguro, he showed that he was powerful enough to keep up with him and even overpower him on some levels. His control over cursed energy was great, however, certainly not enough to take down Fushiguro. This just goes to show that while strong, Reggie was not powerful enough to compete against some other ancient sorcerers, who laid a much bigger mark on the culling game and JJK as a whole. 5. Takako Yuro. Takako Yuro is a powerful sorcerer from over 1,000 years who was reincarnated to participate in the culling game. She's incredibly powerful, certainly one of the strongest seen in this arc so far. She was a very well-respected and powerful sorcerer. She could even deal great amounts of damage to Yuta, one of the strongest sorcerers of the current era. At the same time, she could even damage Ryu Ishigori despite his incredible reserves of cursed energy. Using her sky manipulation powers, she could manipulate space to a certain extent. She is also one of the very few ancient sorcerers that fans have seen being capable of using domain expansion. 4. Ryu Ishigori. Ryu possesses extraordinary amounts of cursed energy that far exceeds the level of most sorcerers. High volumes of raw cursed energy fuel his advanced output, and he possesses large reserves of it. Ryu can utilize domain expansion, which calls upon a great amount of cursed energy at one time. Even after casting his domain, Ryu had more than enough cursed energy to fuel his granite blast several more times in combat. Ryu boasts the highest cursed energy output recorded throughout jujutsu history by Kenjaku, and is recognized as a veritable canon even after 600 years. Not a single culling game player surpassed him in destructive output potential. Even Yuta's cursed energy output pales in comparison to Ryu's, who was ultimately unimpressed with that aspect of the jujutsu high student's abilities. In addition to reinforcing his body with cursed energy to amplify his physical abilities, Ryu can output powerful bursts of cursed energy with every physical attack. The destructive force of his strikes even bypass the toughness of Yuta and Rika, who possess more overall cursed energy than Ryu. Possess the ability to cast domain expansion, but the details of his innate domain and his can't-miss function are entirely unknown. When he used it at the same time as Yuta and Takako, the barrier came apart before any of their domains were fully realized. Ryu's special beam Garanite Burasuto. It's a signature attack, and a directed beam of hyper-concentrated cursed energy. At full power, it packs enough devastating power to decimate several city blocks. Rika, who's even more resilient than Yuta, found herself overwhelmed by Ryu's power. Ryu's toughness allowed him to withstand a blow from Rika, and he counterattacked before she could land a follow-up attack. Toward the end of his fight with Yuta, Ryu hit a partially manifested Rika with a blow so powerful that it would have been too strong for her even at full power. In addition to his long-range capabilities, Ryu is an exceptional close combat fighter. Utilizing his hair as the barrel of a cannon allows Ryu to keep his hands free, and he's more than capable of using them to pummel his opponent. He was evenly matched with Yuta in most of their exchanges. He blocked Yuta's initial attack upon bringing their fight into close range, and continued to match blows with him throughout their battle into its climax. Phew, I feel like I need a break. Now would you kindly press the subscribe button? 3. Yorozu. Yorozu was a confident, wild, and brash-natured woman who acts only to satisfy herself. The well-mannered gentlemen of that era referred to Yorozu as an Ainu hick. Yorozu behaved in an inelegant and obnoxious manner. She had no regard for formalities and has little familiarity with popular traditions. Yorozu preferred not to wear clothes and paid little attention to her attendant warnings for her to be more refined while attending a formal festival. She was unrepentant of her behavior and didn't care if her attendant was punished constantly for it, stating they should simply be used to it by now. Yorozu's obsession with Sukuna began at first sight, and her immediate desire was to alleviate his loneliness with her love. She wanted to be the one who killed Sukuna and took in his solitude for herself. Like the other incarnated sorcerers of her era, Yorozu agreed to the culling game to fight with the strongest opponents possible, namely Sukuna. Even 1,000 years later, Yorozu's primary desire was to find Sukuna and teach him about love. She always believed that she could show him the strength and solitude that comes with love. Yorozu refused to believe anyone else could show Sukuna and was intent on performing the act herself using all her heart. Yorozu is self-serving and cared little for Fushiguro or his sister. She inhabited Sumiki's body and adopted her personality in order to fool Fushiguro into giving her 100 points in the culling game, furthering her own ends. As Yorozu revealed herself to Fushiguro, she laughed while claiming to be his sister. Yorozu was extremely powerful and could even hold her own against Sukuna to an extent. While not as strong as him, she certainly proved her worth in their fight. She also possessed a powerful domain expansion, however, it did not pack enough punch, and Sukuna ultimately defeated her using the 10 Shadows technique. Second strongest on our list is Hajime Kashimo. Hajime is an incredibly overpowered sorcerer from 400 years ago, who Kenjaku believes to be exceptionally strong. While he is certainly not as strong as Sukuna, he is still a very respectable figure. In terms of power, he held his own in the culling game against some of the strongest fighters. His cursed energy has electrical properties, which makes him extremely difficult to fight against. In fact, he can land surefire hits without even having to rely on domain expansion. In his fight against Hakari, he certainly showed his worth. However, he was certainly not stronger than him and ended up losing. The strongest on our list is the King of Curses. Ryomen Sukuna is by far the strongest ancient sorcerer in JJK. In the Heian era, Sukuna was crowned as the strongest and nobody could match up to him. Even in the current era, Sukuna is a level above everyone else. Apart from Satoru Gojo, he possesses a tremendous amount of cursed energy, and his innate technique, as well as the domain expansion, ensure that nobody can win against him. At the same time, he also knows how to use reverse curse technique, and overall he is simply a menace for anyone to fight. I know I forgot Kenjaku. I didn't add Kenjaku because I forgot he was from the Heian era. Anyway, please mentally abuse the like button and press the subscribe button.